What's up, guys? Had a lunch with one of my friends I hadn't seen in a long time, and I didn't realize that he's been coaching golf for I think the better part of 5 or 6 years now. So we were kind of chatting about different things, but he said something that really stuck with me, right? So he was talking. I think he coaches a lot of kids, yeah, that are like either at high school or even early, like later elementary school. But he was kind of telling me something that really stood out, right? As how he tried to contrast what he does versus what some of the other coaches that the kids have gone to, right? Is that he wants to make sure that his students have or show improvement after every single lesson that they take, right? I think he kind of mentioned that some of his other students had gone to different coaches, but they were like high-level golfers, and I think they have a skill, but it didn't easily transfer into them being able to help kids get that skill themselves, right? So again, I like to use that, like my coach Chris would always talk about the rock, right? If he came in, if you use raw strength, great, he can beat everybody up, but that's really not using jiu-jitsu, right? So in that sense, right, that just because you're the best at something doesn't always necessarily mean that you can teach someone to be like you or get to your level. So my friend's a self-taught guy, just a simple Chinese dude that I met through my IT career, really smart, super humble. But what he talked about, where he has he tracks students' progress, he sends them summaries or ideas on what they're going to cover or what they have covered, right? But the piece that really stuck out to me most, right, is me as on both sides of it, student and coach, right, that I've been in both roles, is being able to progress after each lesson. So say, maybe it doesn't have to be every class, but each week, right? I'd like to see in my jiu-jitsu that I improved or I added something every week, right? Ideally, it's after every class, but I get it. Sometimes, what's being taught is not what you're focusing on. So sometimes you have a hard time trying to integrate what you're working on to what the coach is showing. But where we're at, or where most schools are at, there's like a open mat of sorts where it's free rolls, so you can kind of work on what you want to, right? Even where we're at, we do positional drilling, so you can potentially incorporate some of the things that you're working on, right? Maybe not, but it's just something to think about as you're in your jiu-jitsu journey, right? So again, don't try to go to class just mindlessly, following along like a zombie, right? You want to go to class and try to get something out of it, right? Either you got something directly from your instructor, one of your teammates, somebody who's maybe mentoring you or something, but don't just go to the class and just be on cruise control, right? Yeah, I know people say, even when you don't feel like it, you should go. That's true. Some days you're just not into it, right? You had a rough day at work, maybe you got some stresses at home, maybe the kid is acting up, so it becomes a little harder to focus. But so that's why I said, not every single class you would get something, but at least maybe for the week, try to focus on a goal, right? If it's prevent people from passing your half guard, or working your entries to get into a knee hip post, or whatever it is, your takedown setups, like work on something so that when you are going home and you're thinking back about what happened during the class, there's something positive that you can focus on, right? Something that you can say, well, yeah, I tried this, but it didn't work, so maybe next time I'm going to try that. Some people, they can remember. Some people need to write it down. Like me, sometimes I put it down, I text myself, right? Anything to help you kind of remember what you're trying to focus on. Yeah, so just interesting how, even though he's not a jiu-jitsu instructor, was able to glean some information off of him that is relevant to what I'm doing. All right, guys, have a good rest of the day. Hope you get some good rolls on the mat.